Good morning, Colleen. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Thank you. I'm doing quite well, thank you. And let me ask you a question. Where does electricity come from?
Variety of different places.
Well, the core answer is fossil fuels. You see, most electricity comes from power plants, and power plants generate their electricity by burning coal. And now, despite coal's efficiency, there are two major problems. One, carbon emissions. They reduce carbon dioxide, and that slowly causes climate change. And two, fossil fuels are, in a word, finite. Eventually, we're going to run out. But there is hope. We do not have to abandon electricity in the future altogether. For decades, my grandfather was a chemical engineer researching alternative fuel sources, decades before they became the budding zeitgeist they are today. With help from him and research of my own, let me show you what I found. Let's start with what my grandfather actually researched, biofuels. According to the Hindawi Biomed Research International Journal, Renewable Energy and Alternative Fuel Technologies by Tabatabai et al., a biofuel is when you take organic waste and your little microbes eat it and digest it, and it excretes biomethane, which is then burned for fuel. And while it does produce some carbon emissions, it is much less than fossil fuels. And think about it. It's a very sustainable use of fuel because waste is everywhere. Throw a banana peel in a garbage can. We can use that. And think the largest feedstock of biofuels is all the abundance of municipal and industrial waste in our sewers right now. And yes, it is a complicated process to get the microbes to work together for this fuel, but we always have it there. And our second point is, let's go back to the beginning. The beginning of all time, the Big Bang. When the universe was born, what element was created?
I'm not sure. The carbon?
That's fine. Hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe. Let's talk about hydrogen fuel cells. I actually have a diagram right here. A hydrogen fuel cell works similar to a battery, where it takes hydrogen and oxygen, and it creates the chemical reaction of forming water. And I see when the elements pass through these two electrodes here, it produces water and the electrical current used for power. And the best thing about these, no emissions whatsoever. It's very clean on its own. And, well, they're also very portable. We can use these cells for anything, computers, cars, anything. But, you know, there is some issues with these too. Yes, hydrogen is everywhere, but not as in its purest state. It's a bit hard to get it as is for these reactions. And these batteries are very expensive. But once we have the resources for these in abundance, we'll be able to have very clean energy in the future. Lastly, let's look at the source of all life and energy on this planet, the sun. All right, and of course, all this stuff came from the U.S. Energy and Information Administration and the University of Illinois, a blog about fuel cells by Lauren White and Anna Leskowitz. Sorry, and then part 3 for the solar power, I looked at a Harvard blog called The Future of Solar is Bright by Emily Curran and Abigail Burris. This diagram here was also by Burris, showing how when the solar power comes from when the sun sends down photons and it's captured by the solar panel. And the solar panels, they take the electrons from the photons and generate electrical current. Now you may think, yes, the sun may shoot down, reflect off the panels. Not anymore. You see, engineers have developed anti-reflective solar panels so that we capture more of this light. And we're never going to run out of solar energy because we'll always have the sun, another very sustainable source of energy. And now, yes, these are expensive now, but they're slowly dwindling in cost. And according to them, by 2050, our usage of solar energy will increase by at least 700%. In conclusion, we have so many different options. And when I asked my grandfather about his take on all this, is that the shift from emissions-based fuels to more sustainable ones, it all depends on the states willing to support the change in infrastructure. And a complete 100% shift to anything is going to be impossible. But luckily, because we have so many options, we can do a little bit in each. And because of that, I believe our future is bright. And thank you. And lastly, I have some other questions for you. What is the greatest feedstock for biofuels?
Organic waste.
But what's the greatest source of organic waste?
The sewer system.
Yes. And lastly, what is the most abundant element in the universe?
Hydrogen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good.